I have come to believe over and over again that what is most important to me must be spoken, made verbal and shared, even at the risk of having it bruised or misunderstood. What's a value you're leaning into in this season that's helping you be at your best?
The value that's been getting me through this time is patience.
The value that's been keeping me going through this season is community. And how do you keep community strong when physical distancing is one of the ways that we can keep safe?
The value I chose is freedom right now. I think there's a lot of meaning to that. Hopefully some positive social change and what freedom can mean for the many.
I have been thinking a lot about vulnerability, both individually and collectively. Acknowledging it is kind of necessary for change. And it's really only when that's kind of noted and expressed that kind of change can happen.
The value that I chose was grace. And I think more so as a person who's like feeling a lot of things, just being aware of how my feelings can make other people feel, and creating spaces and interactions where people can leave feeling pretty good or not worse than before.
Can you share a story about making a decision? There's probably many little decisions, or one big one maybe, about making a decision to pursue peace or justice with your time and energy through the work that you're doing.
My mom is such a driving force in pushing me towards peace work, and she is often the soft call towards the peaceful solution when I am raging for the justice. My mom strapped me to her chest when I was 6 months old for my first protest. I've been to many a protest. I found that my privileges have allowed me to do a lot of systems change work, where I'm currently employed by a financial institution and I've done a lot of work in tech, and that's even where I work in a financial institution is on the tech side. And how do you look at influencing systems change from a technology perspective that really addresses the ways that we think tech is neutral and it is not? That's where I'm finding that that side of peace really comes in, because if you are doing systems change, you can't just look at it from a side of justice. You also have to look at what the motivating end goal is meant to be, and that's where peace comes from.
I studied here in the social development studies, social work program, and then I did a placement in that program as a young offender probation officer in the city of Kitchener for a year, and couldn't find the place to connect to making change in that role, in that position. So then I went away to Taiwan for 3 years, and there's this whole Taiwan-China sort of conflict that weighs over everything that happens on that island. And so that got me more interested in these big systems, these big ideas. And it's just about asking questions, and then all of a sudden you've got a PhD and you're like, what's going on? Where do I get to ask my questions? Where does this happen? And it's a pleasure to be in a circle like this amongst people who are asking questions and doing it professionally. And I hope that I do that. And then now hoping as a teacher here at the university to get students to keep asking those questions, or make their own questions. You don't have to ask the questions I've asked, but it's that curiosity. I don't think piecework and asking questions are different from each other. I think it's always asking these questions and building and trying to ask questions of the world around you.
What's one pressing justice or peace issue that you're passionate about addressing through your work?
As a half Black person, myself and even my sister have done over the last few years a lot of unlearning of just the anti-Blackness that we were taught, and even like remembering things of like our childhood that just made us like who we are. Of course, anti-Blackness is very harmful in the hands of people outside the community, but just the pain and the healing that has to happen within the community itself, and how difficult and painful that work is. I think especially when we talk about anti-Black racism, it's always like an outward view, but there's just generations of like harm.
I'm asking a lot of questions right now. One of the big ones that I am thinking about is based on work that Paul Sigorski has done in education spaces. And his main mantra in his work is that any kind of like positive type of character education or social emotional learning or conflict resolution education that happens within a racist system is still racist, or that happens within an oppressive system is still like an oppressive type of education. So for us, and for me personally in the work, to like deeply look at the ways and to critically examine the ways that our work contributes to oppressive systems in classrooms and ways that we can also work to dismantle, both like within a classroom system as itself, but also at higher levels. And meeting lots of roadblocks in that work, like working and processing those pieces and understanding how we might move forward.
The biggest thing that I struggle with and is continuing to dominate my work is around increasing inequalities. What I continue to kind of wrestle with is that all of it is fiction, and it's grounded on this intangibility of dollars. They're just an agreement that we've all kind of agreed on that help us exchange things, but they have no tangible value of themselves. Exchange happens with the tap of a card or an email or a digital transaction. The more that those kind of transactions happen, the more inequitable things become for my neighbors, for people thousands of kilometers away from me, and that the systemic kind of way that we're now all kind of interconnected in this digital space is really a challenging thing for me to think about, and then try to help bend things that exchange can happen either more locally or people can see numbers on a screen and how that could actually benefit somebody else.
What does celebration look like to you in our work?
So I think probably the celebrations are when it spills out of those things, spills out from behind paywalls, spills into policy, spills into discussions at organizations or NGOs, and you get to be a voice to something that they don't get to see because you're gifted with this spot that is a little bit distant from maybe sometimes the practices, so you can comment on them and engage them and brainstorm with people. And those are the celebrations when it finds itself outside of the little game to get your name on things or things like that.
Back in probably like 2009 or something like that, I was interning with community justice initiatives. My mentor, like one of my mentors still in life and friend, he was like, Michelle, the work that we do requires that we create space for like fun and relationship. And as hard as we work and as hard as we feel the tough things, we need to create space to feel like the sigh moments are really important for sustaining this work. So that has been really helpful to figure out how to sustain myself and just having fun.